Oh, welcome to Module 4, Check-in, Checkout Board. So what is the Check-in, Checkout Board? Well, the Check-in, Checkout Board supports the verification of hours worked by employees during activation. It's a very important tool that supports the Emergency Operations Center staffing and our compensation policy guidelines. So staff, what they end up doing is when they come into the EOC, or if they're working potentially even from a remote aspect in a virtual component, they are ensuring that they're checking in daily. So the time they start their shift and the time they end their shift. Now we also have our documentation unit and personnel unit that also audit that board to ensure that staff are checking in and checking out on a daily basis and following up staff if they haven't done so, or inputting members in as part of our overall scheduled rotation. Now, in our finance section, also uses the check-in out board to cross-reference our overall operational costs with overall financial reporting. Now, our finance section does require the information in this board to support the claim submission process for financial reimbursements with the province. So it is a requirement by EMBC to show that we have staff that were supporting the event at the specified time frames for operations. So it is a primary requirement that is required by EMBC to ensure that we can get compensation coverage. It's also helped to support an overall metric for overall reporting, and it's important that staff do ensure that they check in daily. It is a tool that's used for our costs and once again for our compensation guidelines. So the policy is accessible actually online through our policy aspects and otherwise. So how do you locate it? Well, if you log on to VanORCA, there is the check-in, checkout tab, and that will bring you to the overall check-in, checkout board. Essentially, what you can end up doing is you end up kind of clicking the button to check in. The form will open up. You input your the date and time that you started and the position that you worked, and at the end of the day, you can put in your timeout as well. Once you save that information, it's going to be stored in a table down below with all the record of information, who you're with, department, cost center, your time in, time out. It automatically calculates the duration. And then you can also search too as well. So if you want to search for yourself, you want to check out, because this list will grow throughout the response. So you can just put in your first and last name, and then you click enter, and it'll filter to your name. You can also check into as well through this section actions. So if I went to command or operations or planning and click the drop-in area, and if I click the check-in icon, it will actually open up the form and you can enter the information in. So it's just another quick way to access it. So once you do click create, what happens is that you essentially type in the date and time. So you click the little icon, the field, it'll open up a calendar, you select the date, and then you're sure to adjust the time. And you do the same thing for the timeout. You don't need to actually enter yourself in. It'll actually do it for you. So you don't need to do that unless you're logging in somebody else. So if somebody made a request, they say, hey, can you just enter my information in on the check-in, checkout board? Then what you would do is you would click that field heading, and then you would just search for their first and last name, and then enter in the remaining information, and then the positions they worked, and click save. So I'm also going to show just a demonstration of how this works as well. So I've already logged on, so I can go to the check-in, checkout tab. I can click check-in, and then what's going to happen, it's going to open up the form. And then essentially I can put in the date and time. So if I click that calendar option, you ensure that you have to select the date, and then you can put the time in. So if I need to adjust that, say for example, this was 9 o'clock, and I can click save. And then I can end up putting in the date and time I'm checked out. So when you're finishing your work, so say for example, I already know that I'm going to be finishing at 16:30, so I can put in 16:30. Make sure I select the date, click done, and then the positions that you worked to as well. So if I was coming in at whatever position is necessary, I can select the position and then I can save that record. And then it will create a record entry for my check-in, check-out. And then you can also do the same thing as well is by clicking in like the check-in on each one of the section headings. They all have it in their list. So you can simply go check in and then it'll open up the form just as a quick way to do it. There's also a small exercise that I will everybody to do as well for the check-in, check-out board. This should take approximately about 2 minutes to complete. So when you log on, do select the training incident, select the check-in, check-out tab, click check-in, fill in the form. So select the date and time that you checked in, that you started working, and select the date and time that you checked out when you finished working. Select the position or positions that you have worked and click save. And that should complete the overall exercise. Thank you.